When most of us think of a United States veteran, we think valor, bravery, and sacrifice of those who served to defend and at times fight for freedom and liberty. So why is it that veterans make up roughly 11% of adults experiencing homelessness? 70% of veterans experiencing homelessness also experience substance abuse, and 50% live with mental illness like post-traumatic stress disorder. That has to change. Welcome to Operation Purpose. This show is for those men and women. We want to combat that veteran suicide, that homelessness, and to help them find a place where they feel wanted. Welcome to Operation Purpose. This is your host, John C. Hansen.
Man, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. Yeah. Man, we finally figured out this technology, and here we go, right?
Well, I'm not going to say that, but I think we're a step closer.
Awesome.
I am super excited. I'm not going to lie. Kind of that pins and needles, excitement, which is good because we're trying to obviously reach a lot of guys and gals and just chit chat, but we want to be real and whatnot. Many of the folks on my end know what I'm trying to do. And here we are starting with Operation Purpose. And this is our first episode, our debut, our pilot, if you will. And really, really excited. And I'll tell a little backstory real quick. Marv, I've shared with you, and I'm going to introduce you in just a few minutes. But, I was laying in bed, November, December time frame. And let me go back, I guess, a little further. Most of you know that I'm retired from the military. My first day as a civilian was March 1st of 2015.
Yeah.
And that day you're thinking, well, what do I do as a civilian? I don't have orders. I'm not told where to go, what to do. It was so much easier, back in that day. And I thought, well, golly. Well, here we come to Kansas City and try to make ends meet. But I think to condense things, I had a pretty rocky road. I think it was 10 or 11 positions that I've held. Since being a civilian, just couldn't find my place, couldn't find what I was looking to do. And I think that's what many of us have a problem with, have issues with, not getting our fit, not finding our place. And until, this November, December, I'm thinking there's got to be others out there that are going through this same type of thing that I'm facing. And I started researching, started looking around. Here in the Kansas City area, we've got what's called Veterans Community Project, where they build the tiny homes, the tiny home movement for the homeless. Yeah. And just phenomenal. So I contact the folks over there, and I started volunteering time and talking to vets and was loving it. And I love and appreciate what the VCP folks are doing here in Kansas City. Just really, really exciting. And then COVID comes in. Yeah. And they had to, release everyone, let everyone go that wasn't essential, non-essential personnel. Bye-bye. And rightly so. They didn't want to, they didn't want to take the chance. Everything else, the uncertainty, even now, the uncertainty, what's going on. But so now we're home thinking what to do. Yeah. So I have spent months trying to get where we are today off the ground, Operation Purpose. Because every veteran knows we are focusing on the vet that has moved from active duty to the civilian side. And we have a greater purpose. And who I have today is a very special friend, loved one, mentor. He's known me all my life. I've known him all of my life. And he grew up with my father. And they ran around and did things that I'm sure I haven't even heard of, and it's probably better that way. But I want to introduce Marvin Sandbeck. He's a close, dear friend, like I said, a mentor, and he retired from the Air Force in 1988, correct?
Yeah, came home in 88, right before Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And spent 20 years?
20 years, 2 months, 3 days.
2 months, 3 days. All right. And that was enough. So Marv, what do you think you found? I know you shared with me a little bit on, the trials and tribulations you had to endure through that time that you spent now as a civilian. 1988 was a few years ago now, and I was hoping you could share some life lessons on, what you've been through. And yeah, we're gonna plan a little foundation for Operation Purpose, and we're just gonna have just a great time reaching out. Hopefully the listeners will be able to grab on to a little bit about what we can share. But here we are, Marv.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you, John. A real pleasure to be in on the launch, if you will, of Operation Purpose. I've listened carefully over the months as you've been planning and hoping and building this opportunity. I commend you for the work. It takes vision, stamina, and courage to do this sort of thing. Admittedly, I'm not a high-tech guy, so here I am, my first Zoom conference.
Sure.
Wow, I love it, and it's going to be important, and I'll share that a little bit later, why it's going to be really important. Not only here in this format of Operation Purpose, I've got some personal things that are pretty important now, and Zoom is going to be a big part of it. But I'd like to start, you mentioned that I grew up in Minnesota with your dad. We were neighbors and pals. Our farms were 3 miles apart. You guys lived half a mile east, 2 miles north, and another half mile east. Okay. And of course, in those days, the folks were busy. They didn't have time to take off to make sure that the boys could get together to play baseball or explore or do things that boys do. So your dad and I rode many, 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 many miles on bicycles back and forth as time would allow, and did all of those things that young boys do in the rural setting. Cared for animals, show animals. We both lived on dairy farms.
Was that in 4-H back in the day, or
FFA?
FFA?
4-H, FFA. Harlow remembers Mr. Peter Fogg, our FFA advisor. He was this consummate gentleman who would haul us all over the country judging cattle and haul us out into the fields judging crops. And your dad and I did all of that together. We grew up together and rode the bus together, and we've got many great tales to tell. And you're right, some of them you will never hear, but that's a good thing. But I want to capstone that in saying so from this farm environment, from this idyllic little setting in rural Minnesota, how in the world did I end up in the military? And the answer is quite simple. The Fargo Air National Guard, the North Dakota Air National Guard unit out of Fargo, was flying at that time that I became so interested. F-89 Scorpion fighter interceptors. They were huge airplanes for an interceptor. And they would fly over the farms. They flew over your farm. They flew over my farm. They were very much a presence in the skies above rural Minnesota. And I became captivated by these aircraft. My dad took me down to Fargo one day. He had some other business there, and he was kind enough to take me to the airport and arranged a tour for me to sit in and see an F-89 up close. A pilot was there, the crew chief. I mean, I was in heaven, and I was really never the same. I was always enthralled with aircraft and machinery that flew. Even bummed a couple rides from a neighbor in North Dakota named Lloyd Strumstead, who landed in our alfalfa field and gave this young pup a ride all the way to 500 feet above the ground.
Wow.
Can you imagine it? Little yellow Piper Cub. But anyway, I was always interested in the military. And then, of course, right before I graduated, while I was in junior high school, my dad sold the farm. We could no longer maintain a living on the farm. It was just too competitive. We weren't big enough. And we moved to East Grand Forks, where I graduated. Now, being a country mouse in a city setting, that's not so good.
Not so much.
Not so much. No, I was overwhelmed and overtaken by the city life. These fast-moving kids that, quite frankly, have a different world than we did as farm kids. And the first thing you know, I'm kind of hanging around with the wrong guys, And so anyway, I got an opportunity to visit with one of the local municipal judges there. And he suggested to me that it'd be a good thing to join the military. And pow, there we go.
Wow.
And so my first shot, I was going to be a Marine. I was going to go slug it out in the Vietnam jungles and be a Marine.
boy.
couldn't even get in the office.
Sure.
There were people, I mean, 8, 10, 12, 14 deep trying to get to the recruiter.
Is that right? They wanted to get
unbelievable.
in and
Yeah, and the Navy the same way. You couldn't even get in. I mean, you had to wait in the hallway. So I reverted back to my experience with the Fargo Air National Guard, and I thought, the Air Force really is. And I went down to the Air Force recruiting office, and that wasn't so bad. There were only 9 or 10 waiting to see the recruiter. And I kind of stuck my head in the door, and I looked, and I thought, I'll come back. I had no more taken a couple steps, and the recruiter jumped out from behind his desk and said, "Hey, where are you going?" I said, "Oh, I can come back tomorrow." No.
oh wow.
My name is Arlen B. Selder, and I can help you today. Would you like a Coca-Cola? And sure. So 3 or 4 Cokes later, I'm sitting at his desk.
Yeah.
Finally. And as they say, the rest is history. That was
Sure.
August. Well, actually, it was late July of '66, a long time ago. And August 22nd, 10 days after your dad's birthday, I was at Amarillo Air Force Base, Texas.
Oh, the
3525th Basic Military Training Squadron, and we were on our way. That's how it all happened for me. That's from a farm kid to the military life. It was like it was in the fates. It was cast already. It was going to happen.
I don't know if I knew you. I had to have heard somewhere along the way, but I didn't remember you moving to Grand Forks or East Grand Forks area.
You're just low guy.
Yeah.
Low guy, and actually, your uncle helped us move up there, and Edwin Norvig, he'd be your, I think, great uncle. Yep, and he helped us move with the farm truck and some of their put our furniture in there, and it was a sad day, leaving the farm.
Sure.
But I always stayed in touch with your dad, and I was always interested in your family and how you guys were. And, and then I went to Arizona. That was my first duty station after training. I got trained in jet aircraft maintenance, and I went to Arizona and got trained up there on T-38s and F-5s. And I just knew I was going to get tabbed for the Vietnam assignment. So I just went to the orderly room and volunteered, just got it done, and got orders to donate. So that's how that went, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, my mom was finishing up her bachelor's at UND,
right.
And for most of 7th grade and then into 8th grade up until March, we moved up to Grand Forks.
Right.
And then I felt the pain. It was a complete different lifestyle. You go from Minnesota farm boy to me, that was Grand Forks, North Dakota was a big town. I don't 50,000 people. I don't know what it was at the time, but it was a huge change. Now there's goes from 20 plus kids in the class to 400 or 500.
Yep.
And it was a night and day difference. It was crazy. So as soon as we got the opportunity, March, I guess 8th grade would have been 80. I don't even know, 6 maybe. Got back to my old school, went back to the farm and pressed on as we did. But I didn't care for it. I like that small atmosphere, but it changed my mentality because I tried to do better. And I mean, teens are teens, but we try to be better, do better in everything that we can. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a sea change. I mean, literally a cultural change for me to go to East Grand Forks. It just changed everything. My value set. Now, it had a strong foundation, a good value foundation from farm life.
Sure.
But it's pretty easy to get caught up in that fast life,
Yeah.
And the kind of the thrill seeking, and it just got a little bit out of control, and it was time for me to get out of town. So. The military was my ticket, and I thoroughly enjoyed basic training and technical school. A lot of people would say, "Are you nuts?" But for me, that structure,
that's what you needed.
That teamwork stuff.
Yeah.
I was in marching band in high school. I was in concert band, choir, all that stuff. So I was used to the teamwork, and of course, marching that fit right in basic. I was a yellow rope immediately.
Oh, were you?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was like boom. You're going to be a squad leader. Oh, okay, fine. And whatever that is. But I enjoyed it. and I thoroughly enjoyed the Air Force, and then came Vietnam, and that was a different thing. And I'm sure we will have many discussions about
I'm sure.
things that change. But yeah, for everybody that ends up in the military, there's a different backstory.
Sure.
It's like my little grandson Bridger. He's 9 years old, and he already has told me, Papa, he said, when I get old enough, I'm going to go into the Navy. I said, you are? He said, yeah. He said, I want to be in a submarine. And I said, well, okay. But he said, you know why I'm really going to be in the Navy? I said, tell me. Because they'll pay for my college.
He's already keen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a little 9-year-old that's already got the military on his radar.
Sure.
As a means to an end,
Wow.
And, I mean, we have, I've had uncles that were in World War II, okay, and Battle of the Bulge, Anzio. I had one uncle that was a B-24 waist gunner.
Right.
Ugly stuff. I mean, we didn't talk about it much, but really nasty stuff, Anzio and in the Indonesia area.
Sure.
So I guess in our family, you could loosely say we have somewhat of a tradition, but with like now you going career and me going career, that sets a different footprint for our children and our grandchildren.
It does, yeah.
It's a different model for them to look at. And so with Bridger already saying, I'm going to join the Navy, I'm like, yeah, buddy, and I want to just drop something in real important. And I know we'll talk about this more, but coming home from Vietnam was quite an awful experience for me, and I think for most of my brothers and sisters that served there.
Right.
We used to kind of kid and joke and say that when we came home, we had to sneak in the back door in the middle of the night because we didn't want to upset anybody. It was ugly, It's like, wow, what has happened here?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it was truly like coming to a foreign country. For me, it was not the America I remember, but it was totally different. And the people, my peers, were totally different. And even in the military, I went to Luke Air Force Base after Vietnam.
Luke, right?
Yep. And I didn't put in for Luke. That's the last place I wanted to go. I wanted to work jets somewhere, and they put me
That's Arizona.
in an office. Yeah, they put me in an office in maintenance analysis with an entire staff of airmen and NCOs that had never been out of the country.
Oh, no.
So they knew nothing about Southeast Asia.
Now, how long were you in Vietnam?
I was there 12 months.
12 months. Okay, a full year.
I got there the 26th of December of 67, and I left Christmas Eve of 60.
Okay.
So I was there for the 10th offensive of 60.
Right.
It was really changed my life.
Oh, I
and we
guarantee.
can get into that later. But coming home was horrid. I mean, you just did not want to even let people know you were in the military. It was awful.
Was it their mentality, or do you think you changed, or do you think both?
Both.
Yeah.
Well, both, for sure. I know I changed. And, but I didn't know how much. This is a very insidious thing. And in 2003, I was diagnosed with chronic PTSD. I lived that way for almost 39 years, undiagnosed. Train wreck, and discussion to follow some other show.
Sure. No, of course.
But it was a very unpatriotic time. And so in my life today, fast forward, I'm proud and yet a bit anxiety in there. But tomorrow morning, my son deploys to Southwest Asia.
Is that right?
600 hours. And,
wow.
I'm proud of him. He's a master sergeant in the Air Force Reserve. He's a munitions specialist. He's actually NCOIC of programmable missiles and special weaponry out of Hill on the weekends. And he worked as a GS-13, in the
he does? Okay.
Yeah.
The last time I saw Adam, he was a scrawny 4 foot nothing. I don't know what he was. 7th grade. I think I was a senior, and I'm pretty sure he was 7th grade. And, of course, that age span, we didn't mingle too much. But
right.
I remember he was sitting in the hall waiting on Jim, and I ran into him. But I think that was the last I had seen him in person.
Well, there he is this morning, if you can see the picture.
I can.
There he is this morning outside of his home. You see all the flags in the background?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
See the sign on the side of the house? great big thank you.
Is that what it says? You can't read what it says.
It's signed by all of his neighbors.
Oh, wow.
In the night,
You set those up.
while they were asleep, the neighbors did this.
Golly. Can I get some neighbors like that?
I mean, when Adam's wife sent me a text this morning with those
That is
photos,
awesome.
I'll tell you, I sat in my truck and
Oh.
tears were just coming down my
Sure.
face. I mean, last night, Adam's on, quarantine because he's heading overseas. So he's been on a 14-day quarantine. So the neighbors bring over home cooked supper for them and put it out in front of the garage and ring the doorbell
And they come and get it.
and said, we can't come in.
Sure.
But sit out here on the driveway and wish you well.
Wow.
And then while they slept, one of their neighbors, she was kind of the crew chief of this whole thing. They put up this avenue of flags out front with these beautiful signs that say, thank you
That's
for
awesome.
your sacrifice. Thank you for your service. What a change.
Yeah.
And why that's important, you see this, Vietnam vets.
Sure.
This is why it's important, because when we came home to what everybody knows it was. It was awful. It was ugly. Kent State. I mean,
Right.
While I was gone, Dr. King was assassinated. Bobby Kennedy. I mean, it was awful. And I didn't even dare approach anybody about the things I was feeling inside, because I was different. I knew I was. But I didn't even dare talk to anybody until it would have been 1974.
Wow.
So 6 years later, and I talked to a private mental health specialist,
Right.
and he had no clue what was the matter with me, and he gave me a diagnosis, and I said, I'm not that.
Because it was so new.
Yeah, it was really, nobody knew about it. There were, a lot of people didn't know what to do, to describe it as.
Right.
It was so hard, and only the Vietnam veterans, and then some of the Korean veterans started coming forward. Then some of the World War II veterans started coming forward with these same types of feelings.
Wow.
It was called shell shock, soldier's heart, battle fatigue, you name it. And then in, I believe, 1989, it became PTSD.
Yeah.
And it became something that was actually registered in the DSM-4.
Yeah.
So that healthcare providers, mental health specialists, had something to go by to help veterans. And but up until that time, there was nothing. So just think about that for a minute. From 68 to 89, 21 years.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
And how many more individuals? How many served over there, do you think?
Oh, gosh, what was the number?
Hundreds of thousands.
It was, I think, 790,000
Is that what it was?
served in Vietnam, in country.
And of course, how many of those would have been impacted now, as we know, with PTSD?
Oh,
Not all of them.
no.
90%.
I have learned, and this is something for anyone who's listening, if they, and I'm not giving any advice. I'd be the last person.
Yeah, well, we're not here for licensed counsel, nor for any medical advice, legal medical advice. This is all just we've been through it a little bit. So
yeah.
I guess we should agree with that.
What my therapist told me, and we have occasionally in our group, I go to a group session weekly, or I have since '04. And occasionally we have a resident psychiatrist who's moving his or her way through their fourth year. And we had one individual that came and spent about 2.5 months, but she was delightful. She explained that the younger veteran who is in combat situation, let's talk about the 18, the 19, the 20, 21-year-old. That veteran, male, female, makes no difference, except the females seem to mature. This portion of their brain seems to mature a little quicker. It's called the amygdala. And for whatever reason, the male species, according to her, is a little slower to mature in that area of the brain. And this is where your fight, flight, or flee, is where all of that is, where it's processed along the frontal cortex. And so as young combatants, and you see these horrible things that you do, these horrible things, that leaves an imprint, that leaves a stain, fractures, memories. I can recall bits and pieces, but I can't recall all of it. And that's just me. Everybody's different. Each person, each individual is different. So along those lines, when you say, well, if someone's listening in to kind of get some ideas about what they may or may not wish to do,
Right.
or let's say a loved one is listening in and they want to be helpful, but they don't exactly know what to do. It's such an individual and it's so personal and private that everyone has to come to their own about the next step.
Because how it affected you, obviously, you know, you had your own particular, very personal experience.
Yeah.
I, of course, had something different. Everyone's going to have their own experience, and in turn, it's going to affect everyone differently. Yeah. So, you know, it is a great opportunity when you can get it out there or talk. A lot of guys, we're guys. Guys are guys. You know, they don't care to talk too much. And ladies are a little more wired, I guess, in that direction to do so. But yeah, we all have our own experience and how it affects us. Hopefully no one's out there kicking the dog and, you know, whatever else, but God forbid. So that counsel that you've been having since 2004, I assume that's been pretty effective.
It's as effective as it can be.
Sure.
On a daily basis.
Marv, I've loved, appreciated, respected you for years. You're that guy that makes it fun to talk with because you've been there, you've seen a thing or two, and been around
like the Allstate where I've seen a thing or two.
Yeah. So, but I would love to have you, you know, as long as we can get Operation Purpose up and going, get the foundation laid, and you know, help.
There's some very specific topics, you know, coping skills, anger management, things like that. I could share some of the lessons that we go through weekly, and these are lessons that are right out of Dr. Crosby's book. And for those that are listening, if they want to read a fantastic book, A Mind Frozen in Time.
Mind Frozen in Time.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting our operationpurpose.org. There's my shameless plug. Operationpurpose.org is going to be up and running very shortly. I think if you go to it now, it'll say coming soon, something along those lines. But we want to get sections in there. We want to get links for crucial information like you just mentioned, you know, good reads, job opportunities, you know, where can these guys go? I've had countless people say, "Oh, you're in the military, get a job, no problem, easy." And well, where are all these corporations that want to hire veterans or say they do? And maybe I'm just not looking in the right place, and they're out there. I know they're out there, but you know, I'm serving my purpose, I think, in this capacity right now. But we want to get a listing of all those crucial positions that we can get up to people.
I hope someday your format will even expand to maybe call-ins, or where the listeners, the viewers can send questions to you, and you can address those questions the following show.
Absolutely, yes. No, I think that's great.
Interaction is really important, and for everyone who is a family member of Operation Purpose, to feel like they can come here and participate, they can be heard.
No judgment.
This is a no judgment zone.
Judgment free, yeah.
Judgment
I do
free.
have Operation Purpose. I'd have to see if it's linked to my Facebook, or if it's a page on its own. But get on Facebook, search Operation Purpose. We should have a picture of our logo up there. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot us a line and ask. Maybe it's something we can address. Maybe you just want to shout out, whatever. We can say, hey. But no, I love that idea, and we can definitely look at reading something here in our next episodes down the road. So
awesome.
Okay. All right, Marv. Well, I appreciate it. And again, we look forward to chit-chatting with you down the road. And, man, I'm excited. Let this begin.
Congratulations on your launch, John.
All right, Marv.
Take care, buddy.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Operation Purpose with John C. Hansen. Thank you for listening to the show. We hope you've gotten some useful information, and we're proud to have you as a member of the family. Till next time, reach out to us on social media. This is Operation Purpose, signing off.